folks, welcome in to episode 1 of We Have the High Ground, your Star Wars show on the Ultimate Schmoedown Show network, possibly being renamed at some point. Who knows? Who knows? But we are here. I'm going to be your host, one of your hosts, Colin Morris. Joining me all the way from across the pond is Bogz, my fellow co-host on the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. Bogz, how's it going, man?
Yeah, man. Super excited to do this. I mean, yourself and I are hardcore, Star Wars fans, and always wanted to do like a Star Wars review show. Not just the movies. Obviously, we watch all the kind of the TV shows, books, video games, comics. So all the good stuff, and yeah, I can't wait to break it down, give my thoughts and views. Mainly, this was kind of done for a Mandalorian review. Obviously, season 2 is coming later this month, and I need to talk to someone about it. So I'm glad you're here to save the day.
And that's another thing that I've really appreciated about our friendship that's formed is that we're kind of on the same level, where it's like we'll read you've read the same comics, I'm reading the comics.
Yeah.
You've seen all of Rebels, you're up to date with Clone Wars, you're up to date with the Mandalorian. Like I have friends of mine who they're up to date with the Mandalorian, but they're not they're like, what? Like Star Wars Rebels? And I'm like, oh, okay, let me tell you guys, episode 5, there's gonna be some stuff. You're gonna be coming to me and you're gonna be like, what's happening here? And I'm gonna be like, who's Ahsoka Tano? And I'm gonna be like, well, here's 7 seasons to tell you who she is. But I'm glad that we can just have we're speaking the same language here. When I say that Cad Bane is the best bounty hunter of all time, there's not even a question. That's just the only answer.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, you don't have to tell me or inform me. You're right. It's nice to have just that natural kind of in-depth conversation without explaining or talking.
All right, so let's get into the world between worlds. All right, so let's just get right into the meat of this conversation. Will the Mandalorian?
Exactly, because I remember one time I was at work, and I work in an office, and obviously not right now. I'm at home, but I remember walking past someone's desk, and I remember seeing I forgot the name of the comic book, Kanan's. I think
Kanan's Padawan, the Padawan's journey.
Yeah.
The last Padawan, was he the last Padawan?
And it was literally on someone's desk, and I froze, and I turned. I was like, "Oh, Joe, do you watch Rebels?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, so how
why
have you
are
got
you reading this comic?"
Yeah. I was like, "Why have you got that comic?" And he says, "Oh, I was reading the Vader series, comic series, and I saw this next to it, and I just brought it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Oh, maybe you should watch Rebels because this guy's like he's an apprentice. He's got an apprentice, and he survived all the 66." And he was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll get into." So I'm thinking, what, this guy's watching,
he's
reading
probably
the comic,
curious, right? And he's because in that comic,
it's the art style, the character,
the art style, and it flashes back mid-panel. It'll just flash back to them being on the Ghost, and he's just saying, he's probably like, what in the what's going on? Yeah, that'd be really weird. I'd like to talk to that guy. It's must be an interesting experience. So Bogz, I think a great place to start here, and just so everybody knows, this ain't gonna be like some 3-hour show. We're gonna try to keep these things in a nice little hour trip,
short and sweet.
Nice and digestible for a drive. And why don't you just give the folks, a little Star Wars breakdown of you, man? How did you come into loving this whole galaxy of amazing stories?
Well, I mean, really, I think it came from my father. We used to kind of, as youngsters, he would show us old fantasy movies or sci-fi movies. I'm talking like Jason and the Argonauts. I'm talking live action Disney movies, or live action Jungle Book, that kind of movies. And I remember distinctly, I was about 9, and he sat me down, and we had the box set, and this is before the re-releases, so sometime in the 90s. And he said, "Son, this will be the best." It was A New Hope, and he was like, "Son, this will be the best thing you've ever seen. It's fun, it's got adventure, it's got fighting, it's smart, it's intelligent." And I remember thinking, okay, whatever. Because he used to sometimes refer movies that I didn't like, and he put it on, and it was A New Hope, and I was watching I didn't really get it. I thought, oh, who's this kind of dark villain, and then with the robots, and I was like, oh, this is a bit. And then I remember Luke kind of with Obi-Wan igniting the lightsaber. As soon as I seen the lightsaber, I was like, yeah, I'm in there. I want to know what this Clone Wars is about, what he's talking about. I want to know who's. I kind of knew his father would have something to do with the story, so it was from there really, and that was my original kind of in. And then yeah, it just kind of, the original trilogy just reminds me of growing up in my teens and just watching it at home. And I remember kind of where people were in the household when it was on. It just very nostalgic. That's my way in anyway. And since then, obviously, the story is just getting more in depth. And since like I absolutely love Rebels, and just how in depth in the mythology it goes, and other characters and things like that. And reading, even just reading or listening to the audiobooks growing up, because I was like everyone else. I wanted, I grew up without any new movies until The Phantom Menace was released. So I was listening to audiobooks and things like that. And yeah, it's always been my favorite franchise. And it always kind of relays back to the family element, the father-son element. That was always that got me in. So yeah, it was mainly my dad introduced me to it, to be honest. Yeah. So what about you?
Well, people don't get too bored, but my dad also sat me down.
Yeah.
But this was
It's
so
the father-son story, isn't it? So,
mid 90s and later 90s, right around the time probably Phantom Menace was announced. And my dad had the VHS set. It was
the
a rainy
silver
day.
box set, right? I think.
It was the gold one. I think we had.
Okay. I
We
know
had
what
the
you mean.
gold one. Yeah. I think that was the THX. I think after they had gone through and redone the sound, I think,
Yeah.
or something,
Hmm.
they could like redo a VHS.
Remastered. Yeah.
Yeah, remastered the sound, and I was like, "Ooh!" You hear the, you remember that the big huge sound? It'd be like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
big speakers." And we made breakfast, and then we watched A New Hope. It was a rainy day. Made lunch, watched The Empire Strikes Back. Made dinner, watched Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Nice.
And then I was like, "Oh, got it."
Yeah.
I totally get it. And then saw Phantom Menace in theaters. I saw Attack of the Clones 11 times in theaters.
Okay.
It was absurd. It was absolutely absurd. I'm a
Yeah.
child of a divorced household. You can get a lot of things, especially right in the middle of it. I was like, "Hey, does anybody want to take this kid to a movie real quick? Star Wars. I'm pretty sure no one I went with saw it more than 2 times,
Okay.
which was pretty impressive that I had that many people that were like, "Yeah, let's go see Star Wars."
Yeah.
But then that just spiraled into the books, the young adult books. I was doing when I was in elementary school. We had a reading program here in South Carolina, back in the States, where you would read a book and then you would take a quiz on it, and then you would get points that would stack up. And I had like the state title one year for points, but I was just reading a lot of books, and a lot of it was Star Wars books, and it was just everything from the Thrawn trilogy to the Jedi Academy stuff to the adventures with Luke, or not Luke, with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, like all those young adult books too that they came out with. And then I will say, once the Disney merger came through, that content, that ancillary content, everything from Lost Stars. Lost Stars is some of my favorite. It's probably my favorite Star Wars book of all time. I just love everything that book does. It just gives you a whole new perspective on the entire story, and that's a very, very it's very hard because it'd be weird if we went and read a story of like Nazi officers in World War II just trying to do their office jobs, and then you're reading their story. But it's very different to get that perspective from Star Wars and for it to be portrayed through these different ways. So bringing in creators like Claudia Gray and Taika Waititi, and the person whose name will probably get mentioned more on this show than anybody else is Dave Filoni. Everything that man's done is just perfect. So that's everything that I was just kind of the right age to soak up everything, and then to continue with it also, just through Rebels, through the new Clone Wars, now into what we're here to talk about today, The Mandalorian. I mean, it's just great stuff. It's all there's something for everyone, and there's stuff in some of the stuff that's not for me, but I still watch it because I
Mm.
know that it's not for me because George Lucas said this is a story for 12-year-olds. So that's yeah. I'm just forever 12. I just pretend I'm 12 when I watch this stuff.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic, but it's so intelligent and so in depth. Like you're saying, it's the whole story was a reflection of World War II, right? Was
Correct.
yeah, exactly the Nazis against the representing the empire, and the alliance being the rebellion, and yeah, you can. It's so layered and intelligent, and even the newer movies, the prequels would reflect so accurately and precisely about how the character traits in the original trilogy and things like that. I mean, we can go so in depth over it. But overall, yeah, just particularly for me, it was listening to the audiobooks kind of in the early days of YouTube when they were released, and then being, having the soundtrack on, having sometimes a lot of the original characters voicing the characters, like
And the sound
Billy D.
effects.
Williams. Yeah,
The sound
exactly. The
effects
sound
as
effects,
well. Oh my god.
absolutely. Yeah, that because that was the closest. Yeah, that was the closest thing. And yeah, the Thrawn novels and stuff, that they were the sequels to Return of the Jedi. I mean, that was it. The video games, man. I grew up on Battlefront on the PlayStation, and
Oh, we
the
could do a
X-wing games.
whole podcast about Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's endless. It's just always been there, and it's always been my favorite. Just growing up. So yeah, I can talk about. We don't want to make this a 3-hour show, but we can easily, to be honest.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and get into it. You presented a perspective to me that was very, very so we'll call the beginning of the show the crawl. All right. So that was the crawl, the shit us catching you up on everything to do with us. This is gonna be your it's gonna be the holocron of the show. All right. We're about to crack into that holocron and really
Okay.
get down to business. And we're cracking open the Mandalorian today. So today's show was really going to be us breaking down season 1, stuff that we love, stuff that we didn't love, stuff that maybe we weren't expecting, things that really fit, things that didn't fit, and stuff that we are excited. We'll talk a little bit about season 2 closer to the end, but we're going to do a whole other episode leading up to season 2, coming up next week. So Boggs, you presented a very different experience that I didn't even think about. I am in the States, so I had Disney Plus in November, and you did not get it until March.
Correct.
So tell me, what was that like?
First of all, it was actually released weekly as well from
Right.
March. So it wasn't. We didn't get all. I think we got the first 2 or maybe 3
Oh, wow.
episodes. Yeah, and then we had to literally wait. So it's like torture. So from the whole lead up, like there's probably one other person that I know, that I speak to in my day-to-day life that watches as much as I do. Like, I can have this conversation with you with them, basically. It's that, I'd say they're hardcore. And like we were both discussing how we can watch The Mandalorian, because like I said, Disney Plus was not released up until March. Even
VPN.
yeah,
VPN.
and even then, I mean, we didn't know the date. It just said next year. That was the only date that we knew. Like we knew it was coming early next
Like
year.
Q1 2021.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's as far as we knew. So we were thinking, okay, do we, pirate? Do we illegally? Whatever. But at the same time, we wanted to embrace the show as it was. So up until it came out, I tried to my best to avoid spoilers. But literally on the day, you'd see pictures of Baby Yoda, with no context, or just things on Twitter or YouTube, or whatever. It was literally unavoidable. So I kind of knew the Baby Yoda character, but I didn't see anything else. So I tried my absolute best to avoid everything every week. Didn't watch any spoiler reviews, breakdowns. I actually logged them all. I logged them all to watch back when they were released. But going in, my expectations, I just wanted to. My expectations were not too high, to be honest with you. I know kind of the general consensus nowadays is for any new material to come out to be to not include legacy characters, to not kind of have many tie-ins to the original trilogy or things that we've seen before. I actually don't like that. I prefer it. I like my comfort zone. I like it within the sphere that we've already seen. So for me, it being all new characters, that kind of thing, I wasn't too pleased about that. So I just wanted it. So my expectations weren't high. So I just wanted a good, fun show. So going in and everything that's been released as well since Disney's kind of purchase of Star Wars, every single thing. I'm talking Force Awakens. I'm talking the movies. I'm talking whatever show. Everyone is asking, where is Ezra Bridger, right? Or and Ahsoka, right? So my thing going in was like, okay, is Ezra going to be there? Especially like episode 9, that was the main talk. Even episode 8, oh, is that Ezra, or is Ezra going to be there? I had the same kind of impression going into this one. I'm thinking, okay, obviously Filoni's there as well. I'm thinking, okay, so surely the tie or some kind of journey or some kind of indication or hint will be about Ezra. So that was my expectations going in. But yeah, it was horrible. It was absolute torture, waiting and seeing something every week and avoiding stuff and yeah, and obviously when it came out in March, so I actually didn't know the story. So the main spoilers I've seen were Baby Yoda, just the picture, the image of him in the pram, kind of initially. I saw him trying to force heal. Obviously, Grief. I forgot his surname.
Grief
Carl.
Cargo.
Carl Weathers' character, and I seen the Darksaber, an
I
image
was
of the
like, there's
Darksaber.
no way you
I
didn't see
couldn't.
the
I couldn't.
Darksaber.
No, even people just talk about it on Twitter or whatever. It was completely unavoidable. I couldn't avoid. There were the three main things, but outside of that, I didn't. I guess they're the main kind of points of the series, but everything else was kind of was a joy to discover. But yeah, that was the kind of major issue going in to avoid everything. So yeah, what was your kind of expectations going in?
Through the roof. Jon Favreau, I believe, is the Walt Disney of our time. The man has single-handedly transformed how we create content and the depths in which we can create that content. Full perspective, I just graduated from film school in July. So the idea that this dude is able to like transport you to sets unknown in a black room in LA, like I'm in. I'm totally in on the
But
idea that
did you
you
know
can
that
go anywhere.
before? Did you know about this technology
I
before?
y- yeah, because that's how we
Okay.
did the Jungle Book. So I was very
Okay.
yeah. I've been following Jon Favreau's career
Okay. Cool.
for a
I had
minute.
like an idea of what he's doing, but I didn't know until I saw
No, yeah,
the after.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Jungle Book stuff is basically the same, except
Hmm.
the screens were all blue.
Hmm.
They hadn't actually he hadn't created the screens for the environment
Hmm.
yet to be able to shoot the environment through like with the screens as background, which is still like the most insane thing in the world.
Hmm.
Which I mean, it's just the most. It's the more technical process of what Walt Disney used to do. They used to stack animation where they would stack it and then they would shoot it from the top down.
Mm.
And then that's how you would get an animated scene with depth and layer was they would shoot it that way.
Okay.
And so it's just like this, he's just changing the game. So when the second they were like, and Dave Filoni, I was like, oh, and they listened and they know what's up.
Hmm.
So we can talk about our opinions of some of the movies later. But my expectations were pretty high going into the end of 2019,
Hmm.
right? Like Mandalorian plus Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
It was all stacking on
Hmm.
top to be like, well, it feels like we hadn't had Star Wars for a minute because Solo released early in 2018. So you
Hmm.
had all of 2018. You had
I think
no
Fallen Order was out at the same time. I think as well,
Fallen
like
Order was also out
October,
at the same
November.
time. And I was just tearing through
Yeah,
that.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
I love that game. I love everything that game does. And it just it was just Star Wars season, right? It was
Yeah.
Star Wars season, guys.
Yeah.
Like it was fantastic. And this show was delivering week after week after week. And that just kept building up and building up and building up. And like I would go to class and we would all be talking about the Mandalorian. Like
Hmm.
that's all we would be talking about. We'd be talking about like, oh my gosh, you see this? Oh, this. So we can go ahead and break down. Probably we can just talk about the first 3 episodes. We can go storyline by storyline. First 3 episodes is we'll just call him the Mandalorian, but we know his name, Din. With Din and the child forming their relationship. So basically meeting his entire routine, Boggs. He's this guy, he's doing jobs for a dude and getting paid, and then seems to be like in a I want to call it a guild because it reminds me of playing like World of Warcraft, where like I would go do jobs like in an MMO and I would be in a guild and like my guild would get some money too, which is like kind of what would happen. He'd go see the armorer and then she would fix him up a new, breastplate or whatever. And he's giving her some money too. And they're trying to, make ends meet, I guess. Like Mandalorian's got to eat. So what were your vibes? I mean, were you as sold as I was? Like as soon as you saw his routine, were you just like, oh, I need to know more about this?
Yeah, definitely. And it was the world that he's in, as in a post world without an empire, where kind of the rebellion won. I wanted to see what that looked like, even for the bounty hunters. I wanted to see the
It's not
kind of
so
how they
great
were
for
surviving.
everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Not so great, not so kind of all happy and dancing like they were on Endor. But we know obviously from the books as well that Leia didn't have the kind of easiest time afterwards, politically, and people find out she's obviously Vader's father and things like that. So there was a whole kind of uproar at that. But in
Great
terms of
book,
the
Bloodlines. Bloodlines is a great book.
exactly the whole aftermath series, yeah, definitely. But in terms of boots on the ground, um, kind of how uh, everyone is dealing with it, yeah, it was super interesting. And having Werner Herzog as a villain, like I absolutely love that guy. I've seen all his
And not
documentaries.
even
The
really like
guys,
a villain. He's just
yeah,
doing a job for the man we meet later, Moff Gideon,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
a
and
dude
seeing
you
all the
don't want to mess
stormtroopers
with.
with, yeah, like kind of rotting stormtroopers
They look
almost, like
like
zombie
sand
type.
troopers. Yeah, and they
Yeah,
look older, they're done, these dudes are
they don't
not,
know where to go,
who
what to do
even
with
knows if
themselves.
those are like really the stormtroopers whose armor they're wearing? Those dudes
Yeah.
could have just found that armor from somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. And then yeah, to see as well in the kind of first initial episode, I'm not gonna lie, okay, it's probably the best thing in the whole series now. But on this is on reflection, I'm saying at the time I didn't actually enjoy the music first episode because I was looking for these similar
Oh,
themes. I was looking for because coming from Rebels and Clone Wars, Kevin Kiner, he's like that was probably my favorite thing in all of that. Having his original music along with the original themes and how respectful they are of that. That's like quite ingenious to me. And having this music, I'm kind of looking for cues, whether it's the Force theme, whether it's the main, whatever, and they just never came. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was a little bit disappointed, but as soon as you get used to they're kind of making their own kind of new
mhm.
kind of criteria. It's yeah, you get used to it. And then you start kind of appreciating the ingenuity of it, and then seeing obviously the after stuff of how that's done. I mean, yes, of course, but just at the time watching the first episode, my the sheer expectation and you get a different kind of result. I was surprised about that initially, but yeah, obviously seeing the Baby Yoda character as well. Yeah, obviously I caught on to that late, but I was just as impressed and just as kind of like butter wouldn't melt kind of character. But yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I was so glad because for me, the best thing about Star Wars is yeah, people like the rebellion, they like the ships, they like the characters, but for me, it's about the Force, it's about the balance, it's about the Jedi, it's about the Sith, and without that, I'm just not as invested. That's maybe a bit of a I mean, not literally,
Wouldn't
but
say that you're not
that is the
invested. It
main.
takes more. The story has
That's
to
the meat and
try
bones,
harder
man.
to
It's
get
the
you involved if
Yeah,
there's
sure.
no
I mean, I'll
force.
still watch it, of course, but
Right.
it's just the emotion, the passion isn't there. But I was so glad that okay, we've got like a force. Obviously, we discovered how kind of strong they were, but initially, as soon as you see that, you think, oh my god, can it use the force? Can it, uh, is that you're going to learn about the species, you're going to learn about the home planet, you're going to learn about Jedi. Like there's so many things running through your head, and the excitement it was definitely there. So yeah, I mean, they were my initial thoughts anyway from kind of the first couple of episodes.
So then we get in. We learn this man's life, and it feels like these are not the Mandalorians we know from the
Hmm.
Clone Wars,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah.
Something has happened to these people, and we still don't know.
I think that's one of the brilliant, things about this show. We still don't know what happened to any of their, we know the purge. We know what happened. We know that a lot of lives were lost in parts of Star Wars Rebels. But there's a lot of gaps in the Siege of Mandalore as well. There's gaps in the story there. There's gaps from what happens on Mandalore once the Republic, which then immediately turns to the Empire. Once the Empire leaves, do they leave? We don't, not really, because that's when Gar Saxon takes over.
Yeah.
And then he ends up in power all the way up until we see him in Rebels. And then there's just so much there that we can dive back in on. It's just, and so it's weird. I don't want to imagine watching the show without having known all that, because it just adds this depth to, like, you guys are survivors. This was an extermination of Mandalorian culture, because it was that for no reason, right? For no reason other than the Empire was doing Empire things. And so that's really always was kind of what I carried into it, was I wanted to see more of that. I wanted to see the culture. And we see that very quickly with, these are fanatics to a sense, with the this is the way, with now removing the helmet, that kind of stuff. I mean, we've seen Mandalorians take their helmet off, except Boba Fett. Boba Fett was the only one. So, who we may or may not see as the sheriff in the upcoming season. I'm just so amazed that this show is able to, kind of get away with shortchanging us on time sometimes, but you're just blown away. It's every single week. So we'll get into like episode 4, where we're introduced to Cara Dune, and she's not my favorite person in the world. And then the depth of the story that they give you there with the little 7 Samurai type action, defending the town, done by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she invokes a little Jurassic Park with the eyes of the walker in the forest and all this kind of stuff. It's just like Star Wars is now a playground for filmmakers, and if this is what The Mandalorian is, that we're going to get the best and brightest up and coming minds in film coming in and making some show. Cool. Like, I'm sold. I'm here for the next 8 seasons of The Mandalorian, coming soon to Disney Plus in 2032. And I'm here. There's no reason to stop.
Yeah, for me, as long as it's good, I don't care who comes in. I don't care. We get a lot of these kind of news articles and this director's doing this, whatever. We're gonna watch it, okay? But as long as it's good, as long as it's interesting, as long as it's respectful, then yes, I'm in. Like that Bryce Dallas Howard episode. Some people say that was one of the kind of the poorer episodes, but I don't think so.
And Thor: The Dark World is the poorer of MCU movies, and it's still a better movie than most DC movies. Like, that's what we're saying. Sure. Like, it's not a bad episode, but when you lay it up against everything else, it's like a 8.1, and everything else is like a 9.8. It's like, sorry, that didn't hold a candle. Lost had to run 24 episodes a season. Cut these people some slack.
Yeah, but yeah, like the whole even if you don't like the episode in general, you can there's still obvious things there that are quality. Like, for example, seeing Baby Yoda interact with the kids and eating and things like that. I mean, that's super interesting for me.
You got no soul if you don't like that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The little girls like hugging Baby, it's super cute. Like, why would you not like that? And obviously seeing just the respectful samurai kind of initiation type respect to the kind of old samurai movies and stuff like that.
And it's the first time he takes his helmet off, right? And he takes his helmet off, and we don't see it, but he does it. And building that plot, love it.
I do agree though what you're saying though, because obviously in the Clone Wars and in Rebels, they all take their masks off. It's just it's a part of their fighting outfit or part of their culture, but it's not like they don't take it off. So I want to know why they don't. Maybe they will, maybe they won't address that. I don't know. Is it that important? Really, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's definitely.
He loses shit if Sabine has like a painted helmet, and he's gonna be like, "You fucking painted that helmet."
Yeah, and this, I'll come into that maybe next week or something. But yeah, these potential other characters being in, I find that kind of super. They're the more exciting parts of that. Seeing the connections with other characters from other mediums and stuff. That's super interesting to me. But yeah, just seeing the other parts of the galaxy. Interacting with other characters that we haven't seen before, like seeing the other side of the Jawas and climbing on top of the sail barge and seeing like their partying and what they eat and how they behave and how they conduct themselves. I mean, super interesting. And exactly, yeah. So I loved it, and yeah, just seeing different directors approach it and things like that. So yeah, so far, first 4 episodes, absolutely loved it. Yeah, particularly the learning more about Baby Yoda, and that's the real star of the show. Let's be honest. And the more kind of screen time they get, the more I'm in. So yeah, absolutely.
All right,
in terms
let's
of
go
Cara
ahead
Dune,
talk
in
about
terms,
the child. Oh, I mean,
in
yeah.
terms of Cara Dune, yeah, I just want to say that in terms of her as an action character and her fighting, I think that she is one of the best action kind of performers I think I've seen. Uh, like even physically how she looks, the way she kind of the way she wrestles, the way she fights, the way she I thought her acting was fine. I know there's kind of criticism going in about a bit worried about how she performed. I think she's outstanding in terms of physical you know combat and things like that. So yeah, she, like, you believe that she was a shock trooper in the rebellion fighting against the Empire. You 100% believe that. So I thought she was brilliant going in, and she's like, I wish she was more. I wish she was in it more, to be honest, because she's that kind of her character. I really like her character, to be honest.
Well, Boggs, I hate to break it to you, they're probably gonna find a way to kill her
Yeah,
this
probably
season.
yeah, probably. But
Well, that's because she's not really well liked among the non-white community. She's quite little racist and has been saying some things.
I've not seen, to be honest. I've not seen.
Oh, really? She blocked RB3.
I have no idea.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah,
no, I know she blocked some people. Obviously, said
the trailer. The
stuff,
day the trailer came out, RB3 refused to talk about it on the SEN Live, and
okay.
and he was like, "I'm not going to watch this show because they keep paying this woman who keeps trying to make it harder for me to advance in my life. So why would I watch this show?" And then she blocked him. Yeah. It's all in our little sphere of the Schmoedown that's carried itself over. But for me, I definitely enjoyed their banter. Playing off one another was very you bought it. You bought that they were both kind of like the same level of survivor. They were both just kind of out there doing what they had to do with whoever it was to get the job done. But you could tell she falls for the kid. The child is very lovable. It's very hard not to love that little dude. Mm-hmm. And that's where my brain goes when I think about this show, is I think about all the possibilities for this child.
Mm-hmm.
The child is probably the most important,
It's carrying Star Wars at the minute.
Yeah, it's literally carrying Star Wars right now. And I read an article yesterday, which I was just saving just to drop it on you, bud. Apparently, according to the latest Star Wars big handbook thing that came out with The Rise of Skywalker, with Rey and Kylo being a Force dyad.
Yeah.
That is the only instance in the universe and the galaxy into which somebody can force heal someone.
Okay.
Which meaning the article was implying that then Baby Yoda is part of a dyad as well. Which then leads me to think that if he's about 50 years old.
Oh, that's what I was going to go. Yeah.
So is Ahsoka Tano.
Okay. I wasn't.
Or Ezra Bridger. Either way.
There's one more. I know he's the same age as someone else, but sorry, carry on. Yeah.
Well, Luke Skywalker?
One before.
Anakin Skywalker?
He's the same age. He's born the same year as Anakin. So technically, this character is the same age as Anakin. I don't know if that'll have anything to do with anything.
Oh my god.
That is the same. Yeah, that was like a big thing when it was coming out. Yeah, it's the same age as Anakin. Born the same year. So whether that has anything to do with anything, but
they show up, they find its mom, and then she's like, well, there was no father.
Yeah,
and they're like, what the shit?
Shmi. Yeah, Shmi, it's me again.
Qui-Gon, get out of the bedroom.
Yeah, so yeah.
Qui-Gon definitely smashed, by the way. There's let's just get this out the way.
Who?
Qui-Gon and Shmi definitely got a little biblical. I'm team that. That's been one of my favorite fan theories of all time is that it's like, yeah, there's no way Qui-Gon wasn't like, wait, Obi-Wan's not here?
Yeah, he was a bit of a rebel, wasn't he? He was a bit of he was a bit grey. So
he was a bit grey. Yeah, okay.
He was like, screw the council, yeah.
Exactly. One of my favorite characters in all of,
Oh, of course, Qui-Gon.
All of media. Absolutely. Qui-Gon's one of the most influential characters. I got my my girlfriend's brother pretty riled up one time because I said that Kanan Jarrus is the most important Jedi in the history of Star Wars, and I backed it up with what I believe are facts in terms of if you want to look at who's figured it out the best in terms of how we need to operate within the rules of it. Kanan's it. Kanan's the answer. Like it, and that kind of sparked this whole thing, and we all went into it. So I'd like to kind of say Baby Yoda has a chance because it seems to be dabbling in both the good and the bad. So we'll see. Like, is this thing gonna talk? Like
yeah.
Dude, we're gonna fast forward like 300 years, and is it gonna talk? Like
so many questions. Yeah, I'm so glad it's soon though. Like, for me, like I just finished it
like 3 months ago, right?
Yeah, within lockdown.
In June.
Yeah, within lockdown. So the fact that it's so soon for me, I'm so happy because exact same questions. How
we got Rise of Skywalker here, and then we got the finale.
Yeah.
So we had like a little week.
Yeah, it was like a week afterwards or something. But yeah, for me, it's just kind of not recently finished, but a few months ago, and I'm so glad we didn't have to wait too long and that stuff. But yeah, like obviously, I know we haven't spoken about the last few episodes, but how has he got the Darksaber? What we doing there? Is he force sensitive? Who's like?
He had to take it from Bo-Katan.
You think so, or maybe she's left it somewhere, or and where's Sabine? Like, what's going on? Like, who? Okay, there's too many questions here. So I love being in that state because the future, the potential of what it has is so exciting. So yeah, I do kind of love that stuff. But
I would say the only thing I got to say about the final episodes that doesn't have anything to do with the future of the show is that I thoroughly enjoyed episode 6, The Prisoner. I felt that was like playing a Star Wars video game, and it was all right, cool. I'm gonna go load up with the crew. We're gonna go do something, and it's gonna be awesome. And Bill Burr's shoulder gun was sick. I still think about that. Like, if I'm gonna design a character now in Star Wars, it's gonna have whatever the hell was on his shoulder, for real, because that thing was awesome.
Yeah.
And
Matt Lander being in that episode, of course. And I literally, I almost cried. What? Yeah. I was watching it with someone. I was like, look, that's Anakin, and they didn't understand. But yeah, like I actually audibly, like, I think I pumped the air when I seen Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa and Dabra Chow as the X-Wing pilots in that episode. I'm glad that was surprised. Yeah, there was not many actual genuine surprises I got. But that was definitely one. Like, yeah, come on, Dave, like, he's done it. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, like, I guess sorry.
No, I was saying. So to close, probably wrap this up, and we'll lead it into the next conversation. Is your quick, like,
if you were to connect all this, how would you connect it all? I would, if we want to get specific, just Rebels.
Okay.
How are we going to relate the Rebels characters that we know are going to show up into this storyline?
Sure. So overall, I do have to say I very, very much like The Mandalorian. I don't love it. Okay, I don't love it mainly because I haven't got enough of the Force, Jedi, the Sith, lightsabers. Yeah, so I'm only gonna like it a certain amount, and that is up there in the terms of how much I can like it. So I do really, really like it, but I am missing that spice, that extra level of the extra level of why I love Star Wars. But so connecting that, like for me, how can help, like how can the Mandalorian, how can Din Djarin help the child as much as he can? So for me, he has to find someone Force sensitive. For me, he has to find Jedi. He has to find ideally Ahsoka, ideally Ezra, or in terms of the whole Mandalorian issue, maybe get in touch with Sabine, or somehow these guys clash and intercept with their story. So yeah, I am interested in obviously their own storylines, but for me, I like the legacy characters. I like getting the other characters from other mediums involved, because that brings to history, that brings to kind of nostalgia, that brings to other story elements, and it can bring it all together. So that's what I'm looking forward to most going forward.
Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Bo-Katan's gonna get stabbed in the face with the dark saber by Moff Gideon, and no, I'm just kidding. I did not say anything. Stupid Siri. I didn't say anything. For me, this story has a lot of places it can go. It can continue down the path.
Before you go, are you glad that you haven't seen too much in the trailer, by the way?
Yeah.
As well?
I am not watching enough. I'm probably gonna watch it, but I'm not. I might not watch another trailer. Like I might watch it once. Like that's. Well, when the first trailer came out, I watched it like 18 times. Like I was like,
of course.
Just like
who's that in the background?
Right.
Sasha
and it was
Banks.
no one.
It's Ahsoka.
Or the first time, the first one, I watched it like 3 times, and right, and I was done. But I'm kind of. So here's my appeal to you. To maybe I think you'll come back to this and like it more down the road. Is that I think in terms of 8 episodes, you probably got the same amount of Force usage in this as you did in New Hope.
Yeah. Well.
A New Hope was there's parts of A New Hope that are very Force heavy, but then there's parts of it that are just slapstick.
But I'm saying,
what I mean?
But the Force stuff was always
a
dialogue. It was dialogue. It was centric.
Right,
it was subtle. Right. It was like trusting the Force. You're doing your training.
Well, then for me, I'd love seeing this from the outside perspective of like I felt like I was playing Knights of the Old Republic, where like these people are like Jedi, and I don't think we get it. Like Jedi, we're not like they're not humans. Like they're not like they're not everywhere. They're not beings. They're not everywhere. There were only 300,000 or whatever, 100,000, thousands or whatever. It wasn't the millions and millions of Jedi. Like these people weren't everywhere.
I think in the Phantom Menace there was 10,000, so it wasn't like
this wasn't a lot of right. Your sorcerous ways, Lord Vader. Like these are people who thought like that, and even then, like. Now we're getting into the old ancient battles with Mandalore and the Jedi, and we need more of that. Imagine a flashback scene of like thousands of Jedi with lightsabers going at like, the jetpacks. Oh my god, that'd be incredible. That'd be unbelievable. It'd be like in-game style.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The potential is like keeps you on your toes. Like, can't wait.
I think this show is, we're like less than 3 weeks away. So that's going to be something to look forward to here. Yeah. We're also just going to this is just a space for us to come and talk Star Wars. So if something crazy happens, if a trailer drops, we could come down, sit down, watch the trailer together, break it down if we want to. Dude, we did it. We talked about The Mandalorian, and this is it. This was the first episode of We Have the High Ground. But we have a busy week ahead. If this somehow gets out, this is on Monday. So if this somehow gets to you by midweek, you can find the both of us on, was it Save the Real?
Real Entertainment, I believe.
Real Entertainment Network.
Show is called. but the channel's called, sorry, but the actual show is called Spin from the Reel.
Spin from the Reel.
Yeah, the Schmoedown Show is, yeah.
And we're gonna be on there talking a little Schmoedown, and then you can also find us on our show, the parent show, the mothership of this network, the Ultimate Schmoedown Show, live this Friday, where we're gonna be breaking down the Bachelor match with my lovely girlfriend, Guy Naked, and then we will be. Do we have matches this week?
Yeah, sure. I believe we have the 2 semifinals.
The 2 semifinals are this week. Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
If I was Christian, I would just keep holding those things close to the vest. I'd be like, I'm not dropping these. You pay me. But, okay, cool. I will. But Bogz, where can the fine people find you?
Yeah, just repeat everything that you're saying. So in terms of this, I mean, ideally we're gonna do a weekly show, right? But if not, we may have to do 2 weeks or bi-monthly or whatever. But yeah, please give us feedback, comment, share, subscribe. If there's any topics you want us to discuss, please reach out to us on our Twitter or on at TUSSPod, or we've got an email. If there's anything you want us to discuss or anything like that, yeah, please let us know. We are thinking about doing some live shows as well. So yeah, join in on the chat and things like that. So look out for them. And yeah, just catch us on Real Entertainment Network on Wednesday this week, which is on the 14th. And yeah, Friday we're obviously going live. And Saturday we're going to do a post pay-per-view review with our special
Nerd
guest,
Chronic.
Mr. Nerd Chronic. Yeah. So first time meeting him and breaking it down. So yeah, can't wait for that. But yeah, absolutely been a pleasure. I've always wanted to do a Star Wars show. So thanks for everyone tuning in. Yeah, and thank you, Colin, for kind of putting up with me.
Oh, no, thank you for putting up with me. So I will say, Bogz, I will see you next time, and I will see you on Wednesday. And may the force be with you, sir. Always.
Always.